This is my portfolio presentation. I gave you guys each a timeline that I felt like hit the big points in my growth from student to teacher. So I'm just going to kind of go through this and talk about each of those. The first big point that I really felt started to develop me as a teacher was our Pandapis Pond trip last fall. And this is the first time I really had to think, okay, what is the subject that I'm teaching? What does it involve? Also, why is it important and why do I want to teach it to students? And I felt like deciding this at the beginning was important to kind of give me more direction instead of just, I want to be a social studies teacher. So the definition of social studies or social science that my group came up with, and I think the class as a whole, was that it's the study of society in the past and present, including the institutions, events, and the people who participate in it. And at this time we hadn't seen the NCSS themes, but now looking back I can see how this really correlates with a lot of them. Just the idea of time and change and people, events, and institutions. I also had to decide, okay, why is it important to teach this and what's the purpose in students learning it? For me, I felt as though it was important to engage students and encourage them to act to create a better world. And a lot of this was kind of based off my experience with community service. This is a picture of a community service group at Margaret Beeks that I worked with in my undergraduate. And so I felt like this really kind of gave me my passion or my view for teaching social science at the time. So after kind of establishing why do I want to teach, we actually entered the schools and started our field experience. This was my first time in the actual classroom and kind of deciding what is being a teacher really like. So there are a few things that I took from this fall semester experience. One was the many jobs of a teacher. It hit me like a ton of bricks that a teacher doesn't just plan lessons and teach them. They also have lunch duty and bus duty and papers to get signed and get the kids to actually bring back. They have to go to meetings with colleagues, with parents. They have to organize. They have to create bulletin boards. This is one I created, probably the hardest thing I did all fall. I think I was like breaking a sweat at the end of it. And we just had been talking about energy policy, so we put a lot of different articles up expressing different views and had the kids respond on the bulletin board. So this is one of my proudest moments of the fall. I also learned how to work with other teachers to plan lessons. The teacher I worked with was an 8th grade civics teacher, and she worked hand in hand with another student who had graduated from this program, and, or another teacher, and they planned all their lessons together, and it really helped because they were able to bounce ideas off of each other, see, okay, what did you do that was different than what I did in class that really helped. They were also able to do a lot of really neat projects with the kids, and do a lot of collaborative things. This is one project that the entire 8th grade civics department did, and it was during the Virginia gubernatorial elections. They had a mock election, and they had kids vote during lunch, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and they set up these tables and had the 8th grade students running it, and the kids would come and vote. They held like a mock campaign rally and had different people speak as if they were the candidates. So it was really neat to see when the teachers work together, the potential that they have to do really fun things with the students and to just get new ideas. I also had my first lesson this semester. It was the first lesson that I created and then taught to students other than just teaching to the cohort. And through that I learned a lot of things. I was definitely very nervous throughout the whole thing, even though they were just 8th graders, but they scared me. And I realized how hard it is to plan. I was changing things the morning of, just trying to tweak it and just figure out how can I make this work better. And I realized how hard it is and how time-consuming it is just to plan one lesson. So I think this was a really good experience just to get this one lesson with the students under my belt before entering student teaching. And it went well. The 8th graders were very receptive to listening. I was surprised how they just kind of listened and went along with what I was telling them. I was expecting craziness, so it was good. After fall, we went into our break and came back, And here's when I learned how to be flexible. First, we missed 2.5 weeks of school because of snow. And at this point, I'd been in the school 3 times, and all 3 times they were in the computer lab working on a project. So I felt really nervous, like I didn't know the students, and had to change a lot of, we had created a curriculum map, so we had to change kind of, all right, when am I going to teach what? After missing the 2.5 weeks, the roof collapsed, and we missed another week of school. So I'm just going to show you how I had to go through and change my plan. Here was my original curriculum map, and I had it all planned out with the SOLs, my essential questions. And then after the snow, we had to change. You can see here's my revised map. And initially I just moved everything back a week because of the snow. But then once we kept missing more school and the roof collapsed, we had to I sat down with my teacher and had to decide, okay, what can we kind of crunch, what can we take out? So after looking at the units, we looked at the constitutional unit, constitutional rights, and we realized I was teaching a lot of civil rights cases in my previous classes, so this was a section that they had gotten a lot of U.S. history and we could kind of crunch and not have to take a whole week on. And also this last section was just kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of civil law, criminal law, and it was something that wasn't in the SOLs and that we could go without teaching. So we really had to work with that. And in my blog, after just the snow, really kind of wraps, or is a good explanation of what I learned from this. And I said part of me was grateful for this experience, even though it's not ideal to miss that much school, and for everything that happened. But it really did teach me, okay, how can I change things up and what to do and put on the spot as an actual teacher if something were to happen. But I really learned flexibility because when we did go back to school, it was at a different school and it was at night and we didn't have any of our materials from the school. So I felt like this really taught me all the things that could potentially happen when teaching.